Hello and welcome to this edition of the Mentors Masterclass, where we bring you cool conversations with the world's most inspiring and successful entrepreneurs. My name is Dan Gerke, and my guest today is one half of the dynamic duo, the rock stars Toby and Layla Black, who are two fun-loving parents who are, living for freedom. And I love that word, and so it's kind of cool that that's a word they like to use too. Toby Black is here with me today. He's a very successful online and home business entrepreneur, and he's a literal rock star. I don't just say those words because he's an awesome guy. He actually is a rock star, and he plays and tours with his band when he's not at home helping Layla with their two young children. So, Toby, it's great to have you on the line today.
Appreciate it, Dan. I'm stoked to be here. Anytime that we get to do interviews or things where it's kind of off the cuff and you shoot from the hip and speak from the heart, I'm all about it, because you never know, you might say something that someone causes a reaction in someone who needed something to happen or spark something that they end up changing their life. So happy to be here, man.
That's cool. That's cool. And I appreciate you taking some time to share your story and some of the lessons you've learned along the way. So let's start with that before I hop into questions. Maybe tell us a little bit of your story. I know one of the cool things for me is that you're a fellow Canadian, but from your accent, I'm guessing that's not where you started out. So why don't you share with us a little bit of your story, and then we'll hop into some questions.
For sure, yeah, sounds good, Dan. So I was born and raised in Scotland till I was about 16, and then I moved from Scotland to Canada to play ice hockey, and then moved to the US, and actually spent the majority of my time that I had been away from Scotland in the US, playing in Ohio, in Illinois, and then living in Florida. And then, my first place I ever moved to in Canada was a place called Brantford, Ontario. It's actually where they claim Alexander Graham Bell, which I don't know how they can claim him because he's Scottish. But another famous guy is Wayne Gretzky, one of the best hockey players of all time. And my best friends were here. So I always would come back to here. I would move away, go play hockey in the US, and then I'd always come back up here each summer. And it had a special place in my heart. One summer I ended up meeting a girl who is now my wife, Layla, and we were up here for a couple of weeks together, a few months actually, and then we moved back down to Florida, where basically our entire new chapter began, because I had never been in business. I had never really wanted to be in business. I had no desire in marketing or speaking or anything like that. I played ice hockey first, but I was always a fun-loving guy who knew that the 9 to 5, the regular routine, this wasn't even in my thought process. I was lucky enough my entire life in Scotland. My mom and dad owned a restaurant that they had for almost 40 years there. So I was always surrounded by entrepreneurs. My friends' parents were entrepreneurs. They owned their own businesses, no matter what it was. So that was the life that I lived around. That was the world that I grew up around. There wasn't really a job mentality anywhere near us. It was always about, if you had an idea and you had the balls and the courage, then go start a business and see what happened. But I never knew I was going to get into business. It wasn't really something that I'd thought about. And then Layla and I had moved back down to Florida to help my parents out because they were going through a sticky situation with finances and whatnot, after they had moved from Scotland to Florida. So we decided, you know what, let's go to work. I have to get a job to help pay bills so the lights stay on. We don't get, the house doesn't get foreclosed on. And then about a week or two into looking for a job, my dad had actually gone to a hotel meeting and got introduced to the network marketing industry, and he hassled Layla and I to go. And actually in the beginning I was reluctant to go to this meeting, which turned out to be the thing that completely changed Layla and I's life. We went to it where we got turned on to the industry, and we never looked back. We run 100%, and almost 7 years later, it's actually crazy to say 7 years, we've been traveling the world, living free, and not worried about income or a job or a routine or a boss or finances, because we passionately are working towards something that a lot of people are obviously looking to get towards, and that's being financially free and being able to live their life how they want to. So that's been, you know, a way that we've been able to live our life. And it's funny because anybody that knows me, I was expelled from 5 different schools in Scotland, and really was not a person that anyone would see be successful in life. You know, they say you'd either be dead and in jail, and that's really what was happening over there, just from crazy choices. So to see, and then Layla has her own path and her own story of how she grew up, and she was almost the complete opposite. She was really good at school. She did very well in all of her tests. She was pre-med, and then her path completely changed. So it just shows it really doesn't matter where you start out from. It's all about where you finish, and more importantly, it's about the choices that you make, and sometimes the actions that you take blindly in that journey that get you to where you really want to be. So that's kind of our story in a nutshell.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. I didn't know the hockey angle. I wasn't sure what it was that brought you over here from Scotland. I hadn't heard about the hockey part, so
yeah, we were one of my best friends who was the best man at my wedding. He's still one of my closest best friends. I see him nearly every day. His stepdad at the time was coaching the best professional team in the UK, and it just so happened it was in the town that I'm from in Scotland, and I was playing through like the junior level, and he got me a tryout at an OHL team here in Canada, and then I came over, ended up playing junior hockey and then junior hockey in the US, and that's kind of how because I initially, when I was just about to turn 16, I came here on a vacation. It was a vacation tryout. My parents came, my sister came, that we were going to do almost 3 weeks vacation. I was going to train with the team, and then they were going to make a decision whether they put me in like a development team or whatever. And I ended up staying. I never went home. You know, I came with a bag that was meant for vacation, and ended up just staying and living out of a bag for years and years and years. And looking back on that now, I've totally forgotten about that. And it's actually pretty hilarious that, you know, I went halfway across the world from Scotland to Canada on a vacation, and then ended up just staying and never going home, which luckily my parents had confidence in me and believed in me that was the best choice, and they let their son of 16 years old move halfway across the world by themselves, which was pretty impactful.
Yeah, that's wild. That's pretty phenomenal that to see where you started out and where you are today, and how things change. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you think you're headed down one path, and before you know it, you're going a totally different direction.
And that's the beauty of always. I mean, there's a couple of key things in there, Dan, that are the key recipe in the success of what we've been able to do. But at the end of the day, it was just belief, right? Believing that I could be happy halfway across the world without my family there, believing that my dream in hockey was big enough to batter away those lonely nights, and then believing that even though I'd never wanted to own a business or never had thought about marketing or anything, just believed it was the right thing to do, and didn't really know what we're doing, but just acted on faith and belief, and here we are.
Yeah, very awesome. That's great. And kudos to your parents for having the belief in you. And
I think it was more like he's on the other side. Yeah, I think it was like he's on the other side of the world. That makes it a lot easier for him to stay out of our hair and out of our trouble, and it's a lot cheaper. So
somebody else's worry now.
Yeah, I think that had a big part too. But I love my parents. We see them all the time. We go down to Florida all the time, and they've had a huge, obviously, just like everybody's parents who have great parents, have a huge part in how amazing my life has been, and the parent I've become with my children too.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I didn't move halfway across the world, but I did move out at 17, and I'm thankful that my parents encouraged that independence. And,
mm-hmm.
I moved to go to college. I only moved a couple hours away from where they lived, so I still went home pretty much every weekend to put gas in the car and whatever else.
Yeah, exactly. Do laundry.
Good food for the weekend. But So let's hop into some questions here, as this is the Mentors Masterclass. I'd like to start off by asking who some of your early mentors were and what impact they had on your journey.
Yeah, mentors have been, without a shadow of a doubt, one of the most intricate pieces in Layla and I's success. Even before the marketing and being in business, like years and years ago as a kid, watching athletes and hockey players who I looked up to and how they handled themselves and how they did certain things, even though I never got to meet them in person, even though I never got to ask them questions, I was able to look at what they did and model what they did and appreciate what they did and incorporate that into my life. And when we started in this entrepreneur game, and being an entrepreneur and being a business, not just a businessman, but being an actual business ourselves, our brand is our business. Tony Robbins was a guy, you know, that Unleash the Power Within, or Awaken the Giant Within. That book was like a Bible to us. Another guy that is not normally spoken about in our world is Russell Simmons. And his book, the 12 Principles of, I forget what it is. It's Russell Simmons' book, the 12 Principles of. That was an amazing book for me. That guy, if you don't know Russell Simmons, he pretty much ran the music industry for a certain time. He was orchestrated in putting a lot of today's music and the 90s music together. The guy was an absolute beast. And then obviously a mogul with lots of clothing lines and properties, and the list goes on and on. So another great mentor of ours, Russell Simmons. We honestly have approached this with such an open mindset that we have endless amounts of mentors. But right from the get-go, Tony Robbins was for sure one. Russell Simmons was for sure one. But we also saw outside of the business realm and looked into other avenues of people that were really successful, like Will Smith, 50 Cent, even, guys and girls who now Conor McGregor is like one of the biggest inspirations in my life, and I'm obsessed by his obsession with work ethic and movement and the way that he views how he does things. So again, don't feel like you need a business coach or you need a marketing mentor. It really is not about that. Because you can adapt so many principles from movies, from fighting, from sports, from so many music, so many different genres of people who are successful in what they do. You can take little pieces of what they do and how they operate and how they think and apply it to your own life and really have some amazing impact from that, for sure.
Yeah, and Conor McGregor is somebody who wasn't really on my radar. I don't follow UFC very closely, but one of the things I picked up from him in a recent video is how he speaks his reality into existence, if you will. He's a very powerful speaker in sharing what he believes, and he puts out there what he's going to do, and then he goes and does it, and that's pretty phenomenal. I was really impressed when I saw a couple of his videos, just in his belief level in what he's going to accomplish.
Yeah, and I did an interview a couple of weeks ago, and that was one of the main things I was talking about. And when you hear and like him or dislike him, whatever the case may be, you don't follow MMA or whatever. The truth is, mixed martial artists and the UFC fighters are some of the most disciplined, work-obsessed, fanatical people on this planet who are scrutinized every single day. And what they do, they are elite beings in a world of normal, kind of average, okay, everyday people, as we like to say. And looking at them, but one of the things that Conor shared, or what I found was really funny, is all these journalists and all these interviewers would ask him, can you imagine, did you predict, can you believe what's happened to you? And unequivocally in every response, it's 100% yes, I believe that, and I can imagine it because I saw it first. Just like Roger Bannister running that 4-minute mile, right? Just like everybody who's done something great in a discipline where it had never been done before, they didn't just they didn't just fall into it. It wasn't just something that they didn't just win the lottery, so to speak, and it happened. It was years of visualizing. It was years of believing it. And you can actually look at YouTube videos from 2007, 2008, you know, years ago, where he was talking about things in detail, what he's now doing now. So yeah, it just another testament to how powerful we are as human beings when we connect, you know, the mind, the body, and the soul and the heart together, and we actually have the gumption and the strength, and don't let fear play into it, to believe something strongly enough, but then to actually verbally say it, so we have people looking at us with accountability. You know, when you put it out there, maybe not on his level where he's talking about knocking people out in the first round and taking belts, but when we put it out there to our loved ones that we are going to be successful, when we're going to lose weight, when we're going to quit smoking, when we're going to do all these different things, when we take it outside of just internalizing it and saying it, now it becomes bigger. Now it becomes almost a pressure to fulfill and stay up to what you've committed to. And I heard a quote before I pass it back to you. Tony Robbins talks about all the time that highly successful people are no more fearful, are just as fearful as your everyday average person. But the thing is, a successful person will see and harness that fear and let the fear of living in the normal life that they've always had and that which they regret, the fear of living there overcomes the fear of actually doing it. So at the end of the day, we all have fears, we all have emotions, we all have beliefs. It's just how we decide to choose how they affect us. Do they affect us to make us work hard? Do they affect us to stay in our bubble? It's really just a choice.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things from that I picked up too is just reaffirming that belief level when you're talking about fighters or whatever. Muhammad Ali comes to mind, and I heard somebody talking about him recently and how he always used to say, "I'm the greatest." And some people took it as arrogance or you know, just conceit. And from what I understand of it, that was him reaffirming to himself.
Affirmations all day long.
That was his way of coping with the doubters, with the people trying to drag him down, or, you know, that was just him building his belief level to the point where he ended up becoming the greatest. He's one of the greatest fighters of all time. There's no doubt about it. And I have no doubt that it was through that kind of mental process of building his own belief level.
Exactly, because there was other fighters who had, and I know we're talking a lot about fighting, but anybody listening to this, it's not about the actual fight that we're talking about. It's the mindset behind it. And it's the same in politics. It's the same in anything in life. There are other skilled athletes who are as good as Rory McIlroy on a skill level at the driving range. But when it comes Sunday to actually go down the wire and win, like Tiger Woods has done, like so many greats have done, it's all up here. It's the same with day in and day out. I hear from guys that I actually know personally who train UFC fighters and guys who are actually training in the UFC. There's guys in the gym that they train with who are just unbelievable. They have the best skill set. They have the best technique. They have the best conditioning. They have the best of everything. But up here, they don't have it. And none of that means anything. So in a world where we have so many knowledgeable people and so many skillful people, we could be doing so many more great things as a society if people just believed in what it was that they actually knew and spoke it out there in spoken word and actually went after it with their heart. And that's one of the things that fuels Layla and I to always cut the camera on and always do interviews and always be trying to get as much content out there as possible, because we understand there's definitely at least one person going to watch the recording of this who has an idea or a thought or a feeling inside of them that they know that's true, that they want to achieve, but they just don't believe that they can get there. So maybe something we can say or someone that we follow that they can follow will spark them to push away the mean girl or mean boy, push away the self-doubt, push away the fear, because really it's not even there. It's just something they've made up. It's a BS story they've made up in their head. Push it aside and actually act on whatever it is that they, the thought or the thing that they've been wanting to do.
So maybe let's carry on down that path a little bit. I know a bit from your story that when you guys got started online, you were in a bit of a tough spot, and you've done great things from there. So what was it that you were able to do with your mindset, or what is it that when you're mentoring new people into your business who are maybe in a tough spot, that helps them build that belief level in themselves that they can go out there and accomplish what they set their mind to?
Well, on its ground floor level, it's all about our routine. Tony Robbins talks about you get what you tolerate, right? And within what you tolerate is your routine, and then within your routine is your micro routines. You know, what do you tolerate from a health standpoint? What do you tolerate from a financial standpoint? What do you tolerate from a relationship standpoint? Are you okay with having a relationship with your loved one that you speak with them maybe 20, 30 minutes a day max, and the rest of the time you're watching your own phone, or you're doing this or doing that? What do you tolerate? So the first thing we always look at is, okay, you have this life, this situation, this box that you're living in, which is all a direct and indirect result of the choices you've made in the past and so on. So we look at those and say, okay, if you want to change your life, you have to shift what you tolerate. You have to shift what your routine is. You have to shift what you're putting in, right? Because we can't, I said this the other day, you can't show $1 million plan to a McDonald's employee, because it just doesn't, you know, it's not coherent to them. It won't fit with how they view things. You can't show $1 million schematics of a home to someone that can't even afford an apartment at $800 a month, because they've decided that that's the way that their life has to be. So on the ground floor, it comes with a decision, and then it looks into what is your routine. If you get up at 7 a.m. and you go to work at 8 a.m. or you drive the kids to school, and then you go to work and you work from 8 or 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. and then you come home and you get the kids from after school and you come home and dinner's made. Okay, those are critical things that must be done. And we're not saying take time away from that, of course not. But then once all of that's done, kids are in bed at 7, 7:30, 8, whatever time, what happens then? And that little space between the critical part of your routine you can't give up right now, and working with kids and being with your children you'll never give up, but your job part, if you can't give up that right now, what is the critical time in your day that you can put into something else? And 9 times out of 10, people have between 30 and 50 hours a week that they could actually put into something that could pay them down the line into something else that will, you know, set them free. So for us, we get people to own up to their lifestyle that they're in right now, because a lot of people are playing the victim, right? A lot of people seem to be okay blaming the outside things, not realizing that they have that because what they've been tolerating has been giving them that. So own up to your lifestyle, own up to your routine. Be aware that it's come from either things that people have done to you and how you've reacted to that, or what you've done to yourself and how you've reacted to that. Once the ownership is there, once you've stepped up and owned it, that's great. Now it's time to look at, okay, well, what can you do differently? Well, how about taking, rather than spending 2 hours or 3 hours a night on the TV, what about watching TV for a half hour and visualizing your dream life for an hour? What about sitting down and writing out goals? What about using a vision board? What about researching different ways that you can take a tiny little bit of 10% of your income each and every month and put it into some sort of compound interest investment? What can you do differently today that's going to change your future down the long run? And again, all that headspace comes from making a decision, owning up to your lifestyle, because it's really empowering when someone decides to, you know what, say to themselves, okay, I've been blaming so many different things, but it's not that, it's me. It's what I'm doing. It's what I'm feeding to myself. It's what I'm putting in my brain. And when they make that decision and bring that consciousness to their forefront of their awareness, it's like, okay, well, now I have the power to actually change it. And visualization was something that dramatically changed Layla and I's life. We would, for an hour a day, every single day, we would visualize what our dream life felt like, looked like, sounded like, tasted like, where we would be, what would we what would we be doing, everything down to detail. And lo and behold, we had the exact car, the exact house, the exact vacations, the exact feelings, the exact mindset, the exact look, and everything a year and a bit after researching and visualizing every single day for about a year.
Can you maybe tell me a little bit more about that? What was the process in that visualization? Was it meditation? Was it vision board? How'd you go about that?
We had the vision board, we had a vision book, we had all of those things. We had it up on our computer screen, we had it up on the wall, we had all of those things. But on a deeper level, I did some research into YouTube and found some guided meditations. So we would actually lay down in a room, put some music on, listen to this guided meditation, take us to a relaxed place by listening to our breath and letting thoughts come in and released at the same time. And then Layla and I would talk in this guided meditation about what it is that we were doing, where we were, what were we driving, what were we talking about, how did it feel, what was the temperature, who were the people that we were with, what was it we were eating when we went out to lunch, all these different things in very specific detail. We would actually speak them out when we were in this relaxed visualization state, and everything down to the car, to the leather of the car, to the CD in the car, everything that we had talked about became a reality less than a year and a half later.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. I know visualization is a part of my daily routine.
Yeah, it's the same thing with, it doesn't matter what walk of life. If you have someone that is dedicated to their visualization and obsessed with the outcome, they'll get there because they train their brain to believe it's true. They train them to believe that's the life that they live in. And then your body and your mind just work together to do the actions that are parallel with the goals that you want. See, that's another thing I always ask coaching clients and team members of ours and anyone that I can chat with. I say, well, okay, what's your goals? Cool, that's awesome. Well, what's your routine? Is your routine parallel with what your goals? If your goal is $10,000 a month, but you're working like a $7 a month, a $7 an hour employee, how are your actions congruent with your goals? They're not. And that's all you really need to do. I can't say to myself, I want to weigh 190 pounds and that be my goal at 218 pounds. Now, if and eat what I want, eat crap and not work out, those actions, that routine isn't congruent with my goal. So I must change my actions and my routine daily to reflect how I want my goals to, play out.
Awesome. Well said. I like that. So what's one thing, just reflecting back on your path over the years, last 7 years, like you mentioned, things have changed drastically for you. What's one thing that you would go back and tell yourself, your younger self perhaps, that you would do differently, if there is anything?
I mean, we would have saved more money, that's for sure. But that's a lesson that we had to go through in order to learn the lesson, just like everything else in life. So there's not one thing that I would say I would have done differently, because everything that we've done has led us to where we're at now, which allows us to live the life in the headspace that we live and teach and parent our children how we teach them and parent them. So there's nothing I would do differently, because everything that we've done has led us to here. If something had happened differently, who knows where we would have been. So even if it was sending a coach $55,000 for consulting and nothing ever happened, which we did, I wouldn't change that, because the lesson I learned from that, or us, winning cars and vacations and all these different things, or houses or whatever, all these different timestamps that happened in our timeline, in our newsfeed of our life, I would never change them, because as a whole, they make up who we are. The bad, the good, the ugly, the down, the skinny, the chubby, the whatever. It's all encompassed into, there's no right or wrong. There's no good and bad. There's no failure. There's no succeed. It just is. And everything that we've done from there has paved the way for us to be where we are now. And just like everything we'll do in the future will pave the way for us to teach our children and what we've done and what we've done bad, what we've done that maybe class is bad or wrong or bad decision or whatever. At the end of the day, none of that really means anything bad, if we take it with, the grain of salt and learn from it and use it as a lesson, rather than something that we look back as a loss or a regret or whatnot,
It's all just part of the journey then.
That was a key thing, and it's hard in the beginning when you financially don't have what you want and things are such a grind and everything. There's so much frustration and you're working hard and you're not seeing results and you lose track, and sometimes you don't even know that at the end of the day it doesn't really matter. All that matters is if you live your life each and every day with love and happiness, no matter what's going on, and you take any situation as it comes and you find or create the good from it. Some situations it's hard to see there's any good in it, but if you can create some good from it, and even if that's something that you lose a loved one, or you lose something, or something happens terribly and there's nothing good can happen from that situation, but you take that as an inspiration to then speak to people who may have gone through that or going through that situation, that's you created something extremely impactful, extremely valuable from something that seemed like there's nothing that good could have come of it, you know.
That's great advice. Sounds like some of the things that you love and cherish are back in the house there. So I want to respect your time and keep things on schedule.
I'm so shocked that it's been so quiet. Like Beatrice would have normally ran up here and been right on camera. So
oh, well, that would have been a nice treat.
Maybe she's
You'll have to say hi for me. So I'll wrap things up here. One of the things that I cherish, and I actually carry it around in my pocket, is one of my favorite quotes. It's a Zig Ziglar quote, and it says that you can have everything in life you want if you just help enough other people get what they want. So one of the things I would like to do for you is how do people get in touch with you? How do people learn more about what you and Layla are doing in the world? Where can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, Layla and I's central hub of really everything that we do is on our fan page. So facebook.com/Toby, Toby, and AND, and then Layla, my wife's first name, Layla. So facebook.com/Toby and Layla. And that's really a direct insight into what's going on in our life, what we're doing. We share videos, blurbs, copy, everything that basically we find impactful or something that we can share value happens through our fan page nearly daily. So if you want to learn more about what we do or come and say hello, please come to our fan page, come check it out, and we'll have a chat and see how we can help each other out.
Very cool. Awesome. Well, that's great, Toby. It's been a pleasure having you on the line today. You shared a ton of great wisdom and knowledge, and it went down a path that I really didn't expect it to go down, but I think it's great the way it went. So it was fantastic having you on the call today. I appreciate you taking the time to come and join us today. And we'll wrap things up for this time, this edition of the Mentors Masterclass, but come back again for our next interview when we have another inspired entrepreneur who's doing great things in the world. Thanks, Toby. Have a great day.
Appreciate it, Dan. Thanks very much, man.
All the best.